Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. As a note to all our guests here, meetings may be recorded and posted on the county website or via social media, so everyone knows. Are there any additions to the agenda? I'm going to make two right off the bat. Number two, first one is I'd like to address the anonymous letter that was sent. And number two is conflict of interest. Just two, right under two, before 2.1. It'll be the first thing after the minutes. Any other additions? Margaret? Conflict of interest. Anything else? Rex has moved the amended agenda. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, May 2nd, 2017, regular council meeting minutes. Bernice has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. May 16th, 2017, regular council meeting minutes. Alice has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. May 16th, 2017, public hearing minutes, bylaws, 2016-27, 2017-02, 2017-05, and 2017-08. Don has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Okay, on the anonymous letter, I'm just going to read this out here. Okay, this is a letter from our CAO that was sent out to all of council. It says on I don't know where to start here. I don't have to read it all. I'll start at the very beginning. On another very serious matter, late Wednesday, May 31st, 2017, a letter was given to me by Mr. David Churchill, which I read on the evening of Wednesday, May 31st, 2017, that was written by an anonymous person in an envelope with no return address that questions the integrity of Wheatland County Council, as well as serious allegations slandering me personally. Please see attached the copy of the said letter. This letter was mailed to at least 3 Wheatland County residents that I know of. I am formally asking that Council seek legal assistance on this matter and to start an immediate formal investigation as to the extent of whom from Wheatland County residents received said letter and who is responsible for the origin of the letter in order to have them prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I ask that Council also publicly announce their awareness of said letter and denies the claims and allegations stated to be false and sends out a formal letter to the residents of Wheatland County ensuring them that Wheatland County Council is of the highest integrity and the slanderous comments and allegations made in the said letter towards myself have no basis in fact, and that legal action will be taken against the person or persons whom the letter originated from.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that Council follow through immediately with the request of our CAO, Mr. Alan Parkin. That anonymous letter referred to is a cowardly action by a dishonorable person or persons who need to be held accountable for the slanderous remarks to this Council, and especially the allegations about our CAO, Mr. Parkin. I also feel so strongly about this at this time that I invoke and I call a question to this motion, as I feel that it's a non-debatable motion, and I would request a recorded vote.
Okay. Ben has asked for a non-debatable motion, and being that this isn't the end of it, I'll grant that request, and we can debate the next one. Nobody's going to call point of order. Brenda?
I have a point of order, just because the fact that we're paying for legal for a CAO, I pay for my own legal. So I'm questioning why we're paying for legal. I guess because I pay for my own legal. So I'm not sure that the ratepayers are,
This action that has been taken by whoever wrote that anonymous letter was directed at this council and our CAO and the operations of this whole municipal entity, and it's degrading, it's disrespectful, and if you don't have the guts to put your name to something, as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't even be here, but because it has some serious allegations in there that could jeopardize the entire career of certain people, this is something the council has to deal with, and I don't care that it's the council, the ratepayers' dollars that are paying for this, because it's in support of the ratepayers that this motion has been put on the floor. And again, I state that it's as far as I'm concerned, it's non-debatable, and it's a motion of support for this council and for our CAO.
well, and I'm going to reiterate, I have paid for my own legal fees, and I think that there's some allegations made against me as well, and I've had to pay for my own legal fees, so I will be opposed to this motion, so, on that basis.
Can vote accordingly. All in favor? Opposed? Let the record show that Councillor Van der Velde, Bland, Harwood, Kester, Armstrong, and Booth voted in favor, and Councillor Knight voted in opposition. And with that motion, I'd like to move that Wheatland County Council acknowledges the receipt of an anonymous letter which sets out a number of factually baseless allegations against the county CAO. Wheatland County Council confirms as follows. The CAO's annual performance review was completed in March 2017. This review included a full report by the county's consultant, Legacy Human Capital Group, to Wheatland County Council. Number 2, the information and recommendations contained in the comprehensive performance review were of an overall positive nature, and there were no substantive issues of concern identified. Number 3, the performance review included investigations into allegations as identified in the anonymous letter. These allegations were ultimately determined not to be substantiated, and no further action was required. Number 4, Wheatland County has policies in place that set out the appropriate process to be followed in the event that county employees have complaints or concerns. Number 5, Wheatland County Council will be undertaking an investigation into the source of the anonymous letter, and in the event that the source of the letter is identified, appropriate action will be taken. That's my motion. Any discussion? Bernice?
Are we still going to try to bring the RCMP into this, or
I was
is that
thinking
covered under?
number 5 there, that we'll be undertaking an investigation.
Okay, I didn't know if that covered
Yeah,
them
okay.
or if you were just going
I
through
will.
a lawyer.
If this,
'Cause
this motion passes, I'll certainly go and talk to the RCMP.
Because the content of this letter is just despicable. And like Ben says, if they haven't got the guts to sign it, shows the caliber of person they are.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Rex?
I just would like a recorded vote, Mr. Chairman.
A recorded vote, for
So
sure,
we are going to have an investigation, is that,
if this motion passes.
okay,
yeah.
that's good, I'd like an investigation too.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Okay, and then on the next one, I have another motion I'd like to make. I move that Wheatland County Council seek legal advice from Joanne Clower in regards to the apparent conflict of interest as committed by Councillor Knight on 2 previous occasions during 2 separate council meetings. The one council meeting was February 16, 2016, and the other meeting was May 2nd, 2017. Any questions? Brenda?
I have legal advice on that, and I have statements regarding that.
Yeah,
So would you
and
like,
that's good you do, but Wheatland County always gets their own legal advice, and we expect.
so, on that note, if we are going to do it this way, then does all pecuniary interest apply to all councillors? Does pecuniary interest not apply to all councillors?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So I have consulted with my legal and have a summary statement which I'll read so that you know. So as you may know, a letter was recently published in some media outlets suggesting that I had a pecuniary conflict of interest because I took part in a council deliberations on the garage servicing request to undertake an air quality monitoring in and around Biocan LP and EnviroCan composting operation. I supported the funding request. The author of this letter suggested my pecuniary conflict of interest arose from the fact that my mother has an existing lease of land with these companies. While I certainly do not and did not think that it was a case in this instance, I took the allegation seriously as I must. I have consulted with a senior lawyer who has 35+ years of experience in his field. He does not see any pecuniary conflict of interest arising from these facts. While that disposes of the issue which the author of the letter has raised, I have reflected on the fact that it is possible that any future dealings council has with this matter may probably spur some people to make the same accusation against me, however hollow that may be in fact. I don't want to be the source of a sideshow in this matter, as this will not benefit my ratepayers, the county, or council. For this reason alone, I have decided that it would be best for the ratepayers, the county, and the council in the future. I recuse myself from any dealings with the situation. Further, that I would like entered into record the following land title certificate number 101154-254+1, or short legal, Southeast 3, 2426 west of the 4th, in which contains registration number 0614633310, a caveat dated July 11, 2006, with caveator being John Stephen Bland and Bernice Bland. Any further that Councillor Bland has voted on subject matter pertaining to the subject lands.
What, excuse me here.
I'm
we're
entering
just-
into record information.
Well, we'll do it at a different
No,
motion.
it's peculiar interest, that was the topic. And including to council
Topic
area,
is, excuse me,
peculiar interest, you guys
sorry,
are,
Brenda, the topic is to seek legal advice from Joanne Clower in regards to the apparent conflict of interest as committed by Councillor Knight.
right, and
That's
I
the
have made my
motion, and
statement,
that's
and
what
I
I'll
have some
accept.
information to enter.
That's what I'll accept. When or
Point of
if-
order, Mr. Chair, I
when
have the
or
floor.
if-
I
I'm
have the
sorry,
floor.
I'm cutting you off.
No.
Because I want information pursuant to the motion.
Mm-hmm.
And when or if this motion passes and there is an investigation, or we do have legal advice, that would be the appropriate time to bring all the conflict of interests that you have, okay?
No,
I
you
don't
have,
want to lengthen this any more than it really has to be.
no, I have a land title certificate that I want entered into record. Simple as
That
that.
has nothing really to do with this motion.
It applies to all councillors.
I'm going to ask council, do they want Brenda Knight to continue?
Through the chair, there's a point of order to Glenn's motion and to what Brenda's brought up. The motion that Glenn put on the floor was to have our council come in and advise council on what pecuniary interests and the issues around pecuniary interest. Because I don't think council really realize what the implications of pecuniary interest and conflict of interest are and what the effects of it if you follow through with it. That's what we're getting from Joanne. What Brenda's talking about, it maybe comes out of that and it can be brought forward at that time. But for right now, all I'm looking for is that our legal come in and give us a rundown on what the pecuniary interest, the legal implications of that to council if we don't recognize that and remove ourselves from this table when those issues come up. That's all we're looking for here, as far as I'm concerned.
That's the extent of the motion, yes, thanks for that, Ben.
No, the motion names me in title. So it's naming me in specifically. So I have got legal, and was told what to do here today. So I have entering a document that shows peculiar interest into the record of none. And I have sought legal advice on this, so.
Good, and that's what the motion is, for council to seek legal advice.
Right,
Then
but
it's council's
specifically to me.
job to take the two legal advices and make a decision, no different than anything else. So now to hear your legal advice before we hear our legal advice, I think is inappropriate.
But you
When we get the two
specifically
legal
outlined me.
advices, we'll compare them, no different than any other application we hear.
Mr.
We
Kestner,
to
you
get
have-
the advice.
Reeve Gessner, you have outlined me in that motion. And what Ben said is if you would like a discussion with legal on peculiar interest, that's fine. But you have outlined my particular two meetings. You have specifically outlined two meetings in that to find out whether I'm in conflict of interest. And I am entering into record a
Okay,
conflict of
I'll
interest.
amend my motion that she also discusses the general nature, pecuniary interests, and how it affects all councillors.
So are you taking my name out, or are you taking the meeting dates out and just having a discussion, or are you specifically gearing me in that motion?
I'll take your name out,
It's fine.
okay?
And the dates?
Yeah, you can take the dates out. I know on February 16th, it's already mentioned in the minutes. Okay, so I'll amend my motion that we seek legal advice from Joanne Clower on conflict of interest and how it pertains to councillors. Any questions?
Just have a comment about when our name was brought forward.
You'll have an appropriate time
I better,
at the time. Okay.
because she's wrong.
Okay, that's fine.
So they weren't
Any
paperwork.
questions? All in favor? Carried. Yes. Oh. Okay.
Well, I just want it clarified for everybody, and Councillor Knight, when you had made a statement that you were removing yourself from any dealings with that
Biocan,
situation?
yes.
Okay, see, that's what I want a clarification on,
Yeah.
because you had mentioned CRAS, but then are you talking CRAS and Biocan? Together? Okay,
That was the situation I voted on, which wasn't in.
okay, I just want a clarification on
Yeah.
that, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, we've already voted on that. It was unanimous. Okay, we'll go back to unfinished business, May 2nd. Regular council meeting, County Regional Infrastructure Services Program, CRISP. Revised request for decision. Page 2.1, 2.A1, page 32.
To the reef. I will recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. The requests is there in front. I know at the last meeting, I had asked, or the motion was, that we get a representative or representatives from the Hamada Galician to inform council on what they think is appropriate. I don't know, is there anybody here who's willing to speak? Please come up to the podium, turn the little red light on, there's a switch there, and state your name and Oh, maybe there's,
There we go.
there you got it working.
Is that good? Okay, I'm Steve Ewell. I'm the president of the Gleason and District Egg Society. We've prepared a letter in response. I believe that the councilors all have it, to Councillor Alice Booth's comments. So basically, on behalf of the Gleason and District Egg Society, we were writing in response to Councillor Alice Booth's comments given on behalf of the Gleason Community Association. Following the wildly inappropriate misinformation about our operation and management of our complex, as well as the slanderous comments directed towards our hardworking volunteers, we take offense. These people who take time from their busy lives to give all they have back to the community are truly community people, contrary to Alice Booth's accusations. Her blatant misinformation and fabricated statements are easy to dispute and resolve without question by the facts. The Gleason complex is open full-time 2 to 8, often till 10 during the weeks and weekends for public skating, games, practices, private ice rentals, according to the schedules. The ice goes in at the end of September and was open till the end of the first week of April, closed only on Christmas Day. Every year, pond hockey registers 85 to 100 kids, as well as they have their hockey day in Gleason, which attracts 200 to 300 people to this building. The Gleason and Cluny Figure Skating Club have approximately 31 kids can skate to higher levels of competitions. They skate twice a week all winter and host a carnival and skating competitions yearly that bring multiple other clubs and people from different areas. Innis Minor Hockey, Strathmore Minor Hockey, and several other outlying centers have gobbled up the ice that is left, with 9 teams practicing and games. That translates approximately into another 144 kids coming in once a week, at least once a week with their families. I might add that having the pond hockey and these minor hockey teams accommodate kids from all over our county and beyond. Likely there is a kid from every councillor's area involved in that arena at some point. In addition, the RCMP and the community members meet on Sunday nights for a game of shinny, quite often 20 to 40 people. The Gleason Lions meet year-round upstairs in the curling rink and put on the annual Fall Fair breakfast in the arena. They too have been huge supporters of our building, and most are which are or have been members of the group or another group, and are also real community members. As for curling, there has been no ice put in the last 4 years, partly because of the lack of interest for curling, and also only that we have half the ice plant capacity to run one ice surface. Ian has stated many times that if there was interest in curling, we could put the ice in for a weekend, a week, a month, whatever it takes. Imagine a volunteer that would do that for 2 to 3 days of his time for something that there's not even, if there was interest. Not having ice at the moment in that part of the building may mean new opportunity and more usage. We have been approached to make the area into a baseball training facility for minor ball players. We're not even sure how many kids that could draw to our facility, but it's an exciting thought of how to utilize more space nonetheless. Councillor Booth also stated that the Fall Fair and the Fall Fair Committee are the only reason that we have an Egg Society for funding. Also, the Fall Fair and its ladies are very important to this community and the Egg Society too. I believe that they are volunteering for the greater good of the community first and Egg Society second. The Egg Society itself hosts an annual rodeo that would also satisfy Egg Society's act and guidelines for funding. Anybody that has been involved in organizing an event like the Fall Fair or the rodeo knows that this is takes year-round and takes hundreds of volunteer hours before the events gets even to the day. As to the statement that Councillor Booth made, that she feels that her group works harder than other groups in the community and is trying to pit one against another for fundraising is completely unfathomable. We would not ever question the work ethic or demeans of any volunteer trying to improve any part of their community. Egg Society has held independent fundraiser every year since 2003. In fact, since 2010 alone, it has risen over 180,000 and should need to be justified. This money helped with finding matching grants and upgrades for the end operations. The big upgrades in 2010 saw new cement floor, widening of the ice surface, new boards that were installed. This project was long overdue, but done to improve efficiencies and keep our building improving. Now, upgrades on the ice plant, roof, lobby are now on the agenda. We have attached a complete list, I think everybody has it, a complete list of recent past upgrades. These are the facts presented straight and true. We are incredibly appreciative of working relationship with the county and their staff, any funding and help that comes our way. By all means, we don't want a great working relationship with the Egg Society to diminish due to this uncalled issue. To Councillor Booth, you have set off a firestorm in this community and county that I'm not sure you're going to get past. We feel that you used the knowledge of a councillor for a platform to sneak in and attack towards our organization. How else would you have known the allocation of the funds at this point? No other facts were even close or accurate in attempt to persuade the council. We find this unethical and underhanded. Lastly, the slanderous comments you made towards our management of this organization, staff, and mostly the volunteers was incomprehensible. In less than 10 minutes of video during that meeting, you have undermined the generations of efforts this community has put towards an entire county's public facility. Because of your actions, we are on damage control to defend something that in fact deserves to be commended. If there's any questions.
Questions? Brenda?
Just a point of clarification through the chair. Councillor Booth stepped down, so she was speaking as the vice president of the community association. So I just noted through there you kept referring to her as Councillor Booth, but she did remove herself.
But she is a councillor.
I realize that, but I just wanted clarification from that as well. That-
Rex?
Yeah, Ben had made a comment that I should get in touch with the community and get some of the facts. After that, my apologies. So I did attend that community every week the year prior. I was there once for this following season. My son ended up going to Standard. So when the comments were made, I started thinking, well, what happened? Is that why we went to Standard? I didn't understand. When she said the plant was down, I was surprised. So basically what I'm trying to say is I apologize. I didn't have the facts in front of me to defend what was being said. I did get in touch with Strathmore Minor Hockey right after. My wife was the team manager for the team last year, so she got the information for me. But I mean, it's in our package. You guys have done all the work. It's all in here, the use and the days and the billing. I talked to a couple other residents that wanted to know why I hadn't stood up for them, and I made my apologies, and I'm making them today. So just so you know, thanks, Stephen, for bringing that forward.
Okay. Any other questions? Brenda?
Just a comment, I guess. For me, the information was there. There were some changes in the contract that I requested. And further to that, it's how the money is being divided. That's the question for me on the whole, how we treat people evenly and that kind of thing. So it was never doubt in my mind that things are happening in our communities. They are everywhere. And I don't know how it was. I think we were in a sidebar conversation when all that was going down. But yeah, for me, it's about the division of the money and how it's divided. So
Well, we don't have, like, we have never had, we take what we get and we don't.
I realize that, and that's essentially what I said to Ben as well. It's based upon the division of the money and how it's supposed to be split, I guess, is,
We didn't decide that, and we don't feel that the comments were fair.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think, I appreciate you for coming forward with that. It's a very well done presentation and the information. I think council has to be aware when they're making comments that it could affect communities and for the statements that were made to be made as they were, and as you said in here, it could pit one organization against another is to me is, I don't know where it came from or why it was done, but I commend your community for coming forward and defending your organizations and doing it as a group. You are a very important community to this council. We don't, as a council, we do not share the opinions of Councillor Booth when she made those comments.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Anybody else from the community have anything they'd like to add? Please come up. Just state your name, please.
Thanks. Good morning. My name is Kara Shepherd. Firstly, I'd like to thank council for allowing me to come today and present the facts about the statements made by Councillor Booth at the May 2nd, 2017 county meeting. Just a quick background as to who I am. For 10 years plus, I was a director for the Gleason and District Ag Society. And for the past few years, I looked after the ice rentals prior to the season ice going in. I looked after billing for 2 of our largest ice rentals. And finally, I'm the founder and past president of the Gleason Pond Hockey Program. I retired from both positions as of November 2016. The Ag Society has forwarded a document stating improvements made to the facility since 2009 with a follow-up letter from Stephen Ewell, the president of the Ag Society, which he's just given. I would like to present a few things as well. The ice rentals from 2014-15, of which I have documentation here for and can photocopy if you guys need copies of, state 4 hours a week for minor hockey, 2 hours for community shinny, 2 hours for RCMP ice rental, 2 hours community membership rental, and 4 hours for figure skating, with 5 hours for pond hockey, which is a total of 456 hours. That is a weekly or a yearly thing. 7 hours to the Central Valley School for their phys ed. That was given to the school for no charge. 55 hours to minor hockey games and 10.5 hours to community bookings. A total of 528 hours, give or take a few, for rentals. Any school days or off or weekends where there was no ice bookings, we had public skate and the arena was open from anywhere from 8 o'clock in the morning till whenever there wasn't any kids left. 2015-16, again, I won't give you the rundown of everything. We included Strathmore because they had come on board with us as well. In 2014-15, only Indus was there, but with 2015-16, Strathmore minor hockey came along. So not including games and tournaments that they had rented the ice, we had 528 ice rentals that were ongoing over the course of the season, including the 7 hours for Central Valley again, with a total of 542 games or hours, not including games and tournaments. 2016-17, a total of 548 hours plus games and bookings as well. Strathmore and Indus revenue combined, just 2016 and 17 season, was $28,000 to our arena. I also have ice booking rentals from 08 and 09 as well, if anybody would like to see those. The Gleason and District Ag Society hosted the Big Hitch, the dedication to the Slim Moore House. It was 30-plus heavy horse team, plus riders, wagons, and drivers that they stayed at the Ag grounds in July 2016. And to my knowledge, there was no complaints to our organization. The volunteer estimated time for the Ag Society is 730-plus hours. That doesn't include rodeo, casino, or fall fair hours. For figure skating is 230 hours plus. And last year, the figure skaters ran our restaurant because we didn't have a leasee for our restaurant. And hockey has 1,000-plus hours in a yearly thing, for just volunteer hours alone. None of these hours include unforeseen issues that need to be dealt with as they arise, such as why we are here today. The Ag Society implemented policies and procedures as required, cancellation and booking policies, plastic skate tags to monitor paid skate tap passes, single and family skate passes, contracts for lessees, and employment of community members. To move on to clarify, pond hockey starts and ends as does minor hockey, starting October and ending in March. The term pond hockey refers to grassroots, not that it is played on a pond. The program is strictly played in the arena on the indoor ice, with the only exception of Hockey Day in GA. When weather permitting, it is played both inside and outside. Last year, the weather was not conducive to ice making, so the participants played ball outside, of which we also used the curling ice for ball hockey as well, for extra ice surfaces. There's 100 players in the pond hockey program, kids not only from our community, but from all over the county. Surely, the factual documentation sent out to by the Ag Society and the facts which I have stated today has satisfied the question of whether or not the arena is open and operational to residents. Statements made by Councillor Booth, such as, I quote, "The Ag Society is poorly run, hockey ice is not looked after, ice is not in until February, no one wants to work with the Ag Society, and it is not managed well," should now be completely dispelled. I would like to thank Reeve Kester, Councillor Armstrong, and Chief Administration Officer Alan Parkin for coming to the defense of a community group not able to defend itself at the May 2nd meeting when we were so blatantly disrespected. The borderline slanderous comment and smear tactics of Councillor Booth are now on YouTube for anyone to witness. I would like to call upon Council to reprimand Councillor Booth for the damage that has been done for the following reasons. 1, blatant untruths on YouTube. 2, the time taken from families to defend as individual calls come in from community members wanting us to defend ourselves. 3, time taken from families to prepare documentations for today's meetings. And 4, it is not only insulting to the Ag Society, but also to the county committee that allocates funding, the unthought out statements that may also impact their perceived process for funding. I would also like to add a recommendation, if possible, to Council. I'm aware that councillors are probably all involved with their respective communities. From the minutes of 57.56 minutes to 1:10:46, Councillor Booth stood at the public podium wearing her councillor name tag, and I am assuming being paid by the ratepayers as a county councillor. My recommendations is not only the councillors should recuse themselves, but councillors should not speak on behalf of their community groups. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Thanks for your presentation. A lot of numbers, a lot of time and preparation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions? Before I let Ellis speak, I'll ask the community again, because I'll let Ellis answer what she wants. Okay, I don't see anybody else. Okay, go ahead, Ellis.
I'm Alice Booth, and I'm Vice Chair for the Gleason Community Association, and I'm here to speak on equal distribution of the funds given to the Gleason community. I have previously spoke on May the 2nd council meeting pertaining to the matter, and I recused myself that day and as a member of the Community Association. Should my previous comments offend other organizations, I apologize. That was never my intent. That being said, the Gleason Community Association has prepared a number of documents to which I will present to the council of the funds raised by the board since 2008 till present. So including in the cost for the renovation and the upgrade from 2011 was $250,000. That was the money that was spent on the community hall in 2011. We have raised another $250,000 to upgrade the roof and the exterior of the hall, scheduled to be completed this year. We have done this through hosting functions, rentals, seeking donations, and grants. We have increased our net value of the building since we took over. It was valued at approximately $100,000, and that is currently now at $1.15 million. Our facility is available year-round. That includes holidays and rentals. Our board and volunteers are there to open, close, inspect halls. Included in your package is a current 2016 booking calendar and 5, 10, 15 years for the community planning upgrades. The community hall is the designated emergency operations center for the area. The requirement includes an emergency generator with the housing and heating plus showers are required. Those items are not included in the infrastructure audit that was done for this council. We are asking the question why the council has split the funding 80, 10, and 10 between the three organizations, as all organizations work hard and they are supported by the volunteers of the communities. We are seeking equal distribution of the funds, 1/3 to each organization. The Community Association with their 1/3 funding would be able to complete the solar lighting project as per the infrastructure audit. And with the other funding that the community hall has raised, because the funding for to do the solar lighting is more in the value of $55,000, not $25,000, as in the report. The Wheatland County prides itself with treating everyone and all organizations equally. The request from the Community Association is for equal 1/3 funding for all three organizations. The Gleason Community Association thanks the council for their consideration. That's my presentation. I believe you have in front of you the documentation of the funding that has been raised by the Gleason Community Association.
So Alice, the paper you handed out is for the hall?
Yes,
Just,
Community
it
hall.
doesn't say the hall, just
Yeah.
should have had.
On the
community
second
hall.
page, there's the grant funding that has been done since 2009. We've raised $674,449.
Okay.
So this gives you the value of what your building is worth today from when we took it over. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Rex?
Well, I don't have the question. I mean, that's decided by the CRISP funding and we just approve it. And I think it's probably based on usage, so you have X amount of people using the facility in Gleason Arena, the Ag Society property versus using the hall. So if you count the number of days and the amount of people that use the one facility versus the other, I think it's probably in check.
Brenda?
So what is the usage on the library as well? So do we actually have a report on how much is usage and like an actual comparison report?
That's not up for us to decide. That's in the CRISP committee that deals with that. And I'm
It's not a
saying,
CRISP
stating,
committee, it's council.
okay, but I'm saying that the amount of people that use the Ag Society facility versus using the community hall is quite a bit different. So I'm assuming that's why the request for the difference in funding.
Well, it's
Any other questions?
through the chair, it's a difference in usage, but, see, I guess that's where I had issues when on the last particular meeting that come. Based upon what the funding versus is, if you look at Carsland, it's 100% goes to one organization, and they determine the funding. In Gleason, we have 3 organizations. And we have the library there that's as well that needs the library is 10% of the funding. So, and they have a lot of work and stuff as well. So I can understand, I guess my question would be back to, through the chair back to staff, as to how, what determines, why it was determined 80, 10, and 10 versus 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 as what's been requested.
Go ahead.
And
Oh, maybe.
Through the chair, I can answer that question for you. It was not based on usage. The 80 and 10 and 10 was not based on usage. It was based on the total amount of repairs recommended by the infrastructure audit and the percentage per facility of those repairs. So as you can see in the documentation on the RFD, the total amount of repairs recommended for Gleason is $1.78 million. And percentage-wise, proportionately per facility, the Gleason Hall only has 7% of that total amount. The library has 11% of that total amount of repairs. And the arena has 82% of those repairs. So instead of, for ease for staff, I said 80, 10, and 10. It's my responsibility. I chose 80, 10, and 10 for those very reasons, because of proportion of how much needed to be done on those facilities. It didn't seem fair to give 1/3 of the percentage to a group that only had $131,000 of repairs to do. This is a 4-year contract that we're asking council to agree to, and by the end of the day, they would get more money than they have repairs to do. So that's where I got my percentages from.
Through the chair, and Rex had said it, it's committee, yeah, it's not. It is an infrastructure audit, and you've explained that very well. And I'm going to put the recommendation on the floor so we don't get into an argument and end up having 5 community groups up here standing at the mic arguing over funding, and they don't have any information in front of them. And we don't either. But the infrastructure executive summary, the audit that they did was exactly what you said. It was for the buildings and the maintenance of those buildings and what needs to be done. So I'm going to read the recommendation out so that everybody's clear of what it says. And the council receive as information the infrastructure audit executive summary with amendments for the following facilities within the hamlets of Gleason, Carsland, including the Gleason Library, Gleason Arena, the Gleason Community Hall, the Carsland Community Hall, and the Carsland Recreation Center. And further, the council approved the allocation of 2016 County Regional Infrastructure Service Program, the CRISP program, funding previously placed in restricted reserves for both Carsland and Gleason for distribution as follows. $42,158 to Gleason and District Ag Society, $5,270 to the Gleason Library Board, $5,270 to the Gleason and District Community Association, $53,619 to Carsland and District Community Association and Agricultural Society. And further, the council approved the allocation for 2017 CRISP funding to the 4 organizations that maintain infrastructure-related facilities in the hamlets of Carsland and Gleason in the following proportions. 100% of Carsland CRISP allocation to the Carsland and District Community Association and Agricultural Society. 80% of the Gleason CRISP allocated to the Gleason and District Agricultural Society. 10% of Gleason CRISP allocation to the Gleason Library Board, and 10% of the Gleason CRISP allocation to the Gleason and District Community Association. Further, the council approved use of the attached agreement in respect of the 2017 CRISP grant for the 4 organizations maintaining infrastructure-related facilities in the hamlets of Gleason, Carsland, and for the contract period of 4 years, 2017 to 2020, to align this program's timeline with that of the municipal CRISP program, and further that council authorize the REEV and the CAO to sign the agreement provided within the request for decision.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Is there any questions? Could you use the podium, please? Okay.
The community association is open.
Push the button on the bottom.
See, now the camera's zooming in on you.
Oh, great. I do have a question for Alice Booth. If the community association is open for all residents, why is it that the kids club was invited not to come back to use the building?
I'm sorry, but that information isn't correct. The Kids Club used our building until such times as they felt they couldn't afford to be there. Under our insurance, which we're insured by the county, we cannot allow clubs to use the community hall without a small fee. So we charged them $35 for a fee so that it was reasonable. And they were running into what I understood, that they told us that they needed more funding, and they weren't getting any funding from any source, and they chose to leave the community hall.
Okay, I would.
And I have one, can I refer back to?
Before we continue on, if questions like that are entirely appropriate at the community association meetings in the community. So I'm thinking next time you have a meeting, a hall board meeting or a ag service board meeting, that would be an appropriate place to raise them. Right now, council is debating that. Sure.
I believe that she has gone around again, using her counselor status here. She had this prepared. This is what the problem is she is using this situation to come around here and she knew that she was getting this letter in response. She knew this was all happening. We never got that response. We never had a chance to be there that day and defend ourselves. Now she comes back and she has defense. This is not the way that things should work. Sorry,
Okay.
I just had to say that.
Thank you. That's why I'm saying, how can I put this? Yeah. Some of these questions have to be asked at the community level. We had staff go out and they given their reasons why it's an 80, 10, and 10. And I'm thinking the community, for the most part, supported that. I guess Councillor Booth, I guess I shouldn't be saying Councillor Booth, I should be saying the Vice President, thought it was wrong. But there wasn't an invitation extended to the community center to come make a presentation, okay? There was no, that I'm aware of. She just used that time to get up and speak. Okay, so now council that are here have to sit here and take what they hear, and if they want more information, if they would like information from the curling club, if they would like more specific information on the rodeo, council will have to ask for it. If council feels like they have enough information that was here, then they can make a decision. Okay? It's about the best I can explain it. Is anybody not? Oh, there, my mic went off. So at this part of the meeting, when council's debating a motion, I guess the protocol is just the councilors discuss it, and it's all out in public and all out in the open. Okay, if council feels like they need any additional information, they ask for it. And if anybody wants to give up another talk or presentation or comments about it, it has to come through the chair. Okay, so if there is no new relevant information, I would just leave it as that. So is there any new relevant information? Does council have any questions? And I guess, Alice, you've removed yourself, say you're not a councillor here anymore. Yeah, my mic's on. Oh, Don's got a question. So you're a member of the community, so unless it's new or relevant or different than what has not been brought up, I would expect you to take your chair back in the council.
The only relevant information I have is that I don't feel the audit done on the community association was done with the looking at what is expected of the community association once it became a disaster center, which is the generator, the building, and the cost that has to go in to upgrading the community hall to do the disaster. So that was the only point I wanted to point out, wasn't in the audit.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Thanks, Alice. Don?
Just a comment. Carsland's a real close-knit community, as is Gleason. If they get this funding, it's really appreciated, whether it's the school, the library, the Ag Society. If one needs a hand, the other one steps up and helps them. And Gleason's the same way. They don't argue who got what. They help each other. You shouldn't be arguing over free money.
Okay. Any other questions? Before I call for the vote, I would just like to make a statement that this money was, after lots of talk in the council, this money was raised for or put aside for communities to help them out. It wasn't put there to help divide the communities. It was to make them stronger and to show the appreciation of the ratepayers for doing this. So I'm going to ask for a recorded vote. What's that?
So on that basis, equal distribution would be fine for everybody then?
If that's the way you feel. Okay.
Well, if,
The motion is the 80-10-10 as Ben has read.
so,
So
Yeah,
you're saying
equal
you're against
distribution.
it?
yeah, no,
Okay. Any other questions? Recorded vote. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Knight opposed. The other councillors voted in favor. And let the record show that Councillor Booth excused herself from council for a conflict of interest. Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the community for coming in and for the extra work. It's a busy time of year putting these numbers together. And it shows council that there were numbers there to put together. And thanks for your diligent work. And yes, remember we're a community here. Thanks a lot. Okay. So you're welcome to stay longer if you want, or. Okay, we'll have a short break. Only a couple minutes. We have a business request for decision, returning officer training session. Did I hear a question? Yeah, I just have a question.
I just want some clarification through to the chair on the CRIS funding for the other municipalities that we gave it to. Was there any pertinent requests that we put through to those other organizations like Standard, Hazard, Strathmore, and Rocky Ford? Were there requirements for them as well? Was there any requests for them?
I don't know. We don't have the appropriate staff in here to answer that question now. We can
So
get
that
you
would
the
be a question that I
information.
would like to have answered. Was there anything in the contract that requested where their funds went to, I guess.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so, was there, Ellen?
You're talking about the villages, the funds that went to the villages in the town? Yes, there's letters in the package, Mr. Chairman.
Through the
There's 3
chair.
letters in the package today addressing where the funds were expended in the community.
But remember, through the chair, those villages are a separate entity from Wheatland County, and we control what CRIS funding is in our hamlets. We do not control what the CRIS funding is in those villages.
So there were never any requests put through to the town of Strathmore, Rocky Ford, Hazard Standard?
Agreements are in the package. Okay,
So when that comes up, I'll have to excuse myself from that conversation on the rest of the villages.
them agreements are done, are they not?
Mr. Chairman, there's 3 letters, one from Strathmore, one from Standard, and one from Azar, identifying where the funds were expended for the CRIS funding in 2016. That's what council had decided on. The agreement basically says if they submit a letter indicating where it was at. Initially, as you recall, council said they didn't want to have any strings on it. Administration said there should be some paper trail indicating where it's spent. Okay, so that's what you see in those. I still have not received one from Drumheller and Rockyford, but I understand they're in the works and we should receive them in the next week or 2. So
And these agreements are for 5 years, except with the town of Strathmore, it was only 2 years.
that's correct, Mr. Chairman, yes.
And those agreements are done, right? Yeah.
So my question is, because that is CRIS funding, will I have to excuse myself from voting on that?
Voting, I just asked a question.
Or
There's-
question?
we're-
So
We
there
don't have a
isn't any-
motion and we don't,
No, I just asked
a Yeah.
I just asked a question.
yeah. And I'm not a conflict of interest lawyer person. That's why I'd asked for that motion, that we get some clarification and some help here.
But through the chair, until that time comes, if you're speaking for the community group, yes, you're in a conflict. If you're not speaking on behalf of that community group, there's no conflict. You said you were speaking on behalf of that community group. That's
Yes.
where the conflict is. If you're not speaking on behalf of them, there's no conflict.
I don't, that'd be a fair question to ask a lawyer
Yeah,
when I get a
because
chance.
it
Okay.
puts me in that precarious situation. I've spoke against it here, so how do I sit here to talk about the legal entities,
Yeah.
right?
No, you're
That-
still a counselor, and we'll still get the lawyer in, and
Okay,
that'll
Yeah,
be part of the
thank-
discussion.
yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Any, we're back to the agenda. Returning officer training session. Page 70, Ellis.
I so moved the request for, a council approved the recommendation expense request for a 1 overnight stay for a returning officer to attend a training session on June 13th in Lethbridge.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, appointment of assessment review board member.
I'll move the recommended action that council appoint Mr. George Zackley as a member of the Assessment Review Board. Thanks,
Okay.
Don.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, request for a refund on property tax roll 2389000 Rex.
I did read this previously. I don't have any objections. If nobody else does, I'll so move the recommended action, the refund on the of $23,816 on the property tax roll 2389000.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, tax agreement, property tax roll 9423010.
I'll move that council direct staff to proceed with the tax agreement with the owner of property tax roll 9423010 for payment of outstanding taxes.
Okay, any questions? Rex, you got a question or you voting?
No,
Go
I do.
ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any objections. This, I think, appears that the county is willing to work with our ratepayers. These outstanding taxes, that through the chair possibly to Alan, these outstanding taxes would still include late fees, right? They're still not going to escape it. Thank you.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, they do, yes.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Reeves report already, okay. Wheatland and District. Wademza. Says appointments are, though, I just kind of, those are all appointments, are they not? Okay. So it's got appointments at 1, 1:30, and 2. Okay. Unless I'm missing something. Okay, so we'll go down to reports. Reeves report. Wademza. Minutes. FCSS minutes. FCM report. I don't have a written report, and I didn't have much time to get one. I didn't get back till midnight last night. Our plane baggage handlers tried tearing the door off the plane. We had to sit for them to get it fixed. And they did a good job because we made it. So, yeah, I went there on, basically, council allowed me to go because of CSAL. And there was the president of the Peru municipalities was there. I'd only met him once previously. And the president from the Colombian FCM Colombia, they have the same acronym as Canada. He was there, the president, and I'd met him a couple of years prior, and yeah, he still remembered me, and a few of the people that were there was quite nice, and they remembered you, Lisa. They had good things to say about our staff, and yeah, it seemed to be something every day. We could go for a meet and greet, got to meet them, and then they had some panel discussions, and it's in a lot of ways it's the one panel discussion with the leaders up there. There was leaders from South Africa there, Miss Charlie, I'll not forget that name, and there was leaders there from, of course, Colombia and Peru, and Caribbean, there was some there. And a recent one, they've just added a country, and these countries are added at the request of Global Affairs Canada, and the new one they've added is Jordan. They're asking for help, and we think we have tremendous growth here. We get 5 or 10% a year. That's a lot of growth. Jordan is now experiencing over 100% growth per year. They're doubling the size of their cities every year. It's a huge, I couldn't imagine the infrastructure and stuff they have to go through dealing with the refugees and stuff. So this is Canada's way to help the municipalities. Colombia was very thankful for Canada coming and helping. They're just experiencing post-war in their country. So they have an influx of, they have to find work for all their little soldiers so they can go do something constructive. And they're asking for, that's going to present growth to them too. So yeah, I want to thank council for letting me go to that. Any questions? I'll move my report. All in favor? Carried. Deputy Reeves report. Thanks.
Thank you. Margaret's handing it out. Somehow our signals got mixed up and didn't get it into her on time to get it in on the package, so she's handing out a written report. Added to that, I did send in, we had our last meeting with the VR, the Hazard Viability meeting. That's on your agenda, and that is the message that Municipal Affairs has allowed us to put out. But basically, we are in recess until after the election. They're still doing work behind the scenes, but there will be no more meetings of the team until after the election.
Rex?
I read that last night. I guess my question would be that may not be a great thing either, because if something happens, they can't be a part of this election if there was a.
That's right. Like I said, the team will be working, the Municipal Affairs will be working with the town of Hazard. They'll be working with our administration. They're doing work behind the scenes. As soon as the election's over, they'll call the team together, whoever it is, same representatives, but maybe not the same people, bring them all up to date again, and then continue on. But the minister, it was a minister's decision, so it was basically non-debatable, and he feels that he didn't want to make it an election issue for this isn't just for Hazard, this is for all the 7 or 10 that are going on in the province. So,
Well, hopefully they can keep their community together, and I think that's the best for that community and continue forward, but I guess we'll wait and see, but I just was kind of curious about that.
yep.
Okay, anything else, Ben?
If there's no other questions, I will move my report.
Okay, any questions for Ben? All in favor? Carried. Nothing to say on the FCM?
I've got notes, as far as the FCM, I've got notes at home, and I'll bring in a full report for council next. It was a nice trip. Yeah, I'll have mine, yeah, it'll be the next meeting. Yeah,
We'll put later.
yeah.
Okay. Division 1 Councillor report.
And on the FCM, I'm the same as Ben. I've got, haven't got my notes made on the FCM. I can do that later. I'll bring you up to date on the handy bus. We're doing our strategic plan. We're just finishing that up and waiting for the new van to arrive. And we put the old one up for sale, so that's still ongoing. Economic development update. We had our new planner sit in with our group last week ago, I guess 2 weeks ago now, and find her very engaging, and I will be an asset to the county and to economic development. Thanks, I got to say thanks to Alan for picking a great gal there. She seems very knowledgeable, and that'll be moving forward. Attainable Housing Initiative. I believe we have something coming up on the agenda. Is that for now, Alan? Do we do the RFP on that now? So we'll move along with that. A. Okay. And maybe I'll go back, then I'll do that. There's a letter to council, the council from the Florence Vandervelde, our chair. Okay. And would like to take the opportunity to thank the council for their support of the handy bus and on the curb, getting the $5,000 from curb to assist. So that's in there as well. Attainable housing minutes are there for you to go through. And I believe the one I'm looking for, on the 3.3A, the council approves directing the CAO to engage legal counsel to review the best structure for the Attainable Housing Initiative and bring back information to the council for consideration.
That's your motion, Ellen?
Yes.
Alice, sorry, I didn't mean to call you Ellen, it just, all didn't come out.
That's okay.
It's the tie. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. I think everyone voted. Yeah, okay. Rex got a comment?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
just got a comment on the attainable housing. So I've talked to a few residents in Gleason about attainable housing, and when we're going through that, we're just gonna have to keep in mind location, because that not everybody's maybe in favor of it, depending on where it goes. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rex. We have had a bit of a discussion on that. And so moving forward, that will be one of the things. And it was good because at the conference, they had an initiative on governance and moving forward with issues coming into new communities. And some people are all gung-ho for it and other people are against. So that was a really good initiative. I would like to report more on it when I do my written one, because there was some really good ideas of how to bring that community together and getting everybody on side. So we'll maybe try and use some of those initiatives I learned down there to do that with Gleason. Okay? We'll keep you informed anyway. Okay? And what other? There's the request for decision for council approved the attendance of the Division 1 councillor to the Business Retention and Expansion Initiative in International Conference on June the 21st in Edmonton. So that's an RFP on your 3.3A, I believe.
Page 110 is,
I would like to go and sit in on that because I think it would help a lot for the attainable, to understand economic development and the whole initiative there. So I'm praying on the council's good grace to allow me to go.
Rex?
Yeah, so I see, and I read the letter, and it does say elected officials and CAOs. You're asking for one elected official. I'm just wondering if any of the staff could go as well, because if they're going to be a part of any of the attainable housing or economic development, if there's any value there, if the CEO doesn't feel there is, that's fine, but I just wanted to ask that question.
Mr. Chairman, we will not be sending a staff member to this event. No.
Any other questions?
So if I'm allowed to go, I'll bring back a report.
Brenda?
So I'll move the recommended action as presented under 3.3A.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And I'll move my report unless there's some questions I can answer.
Okay, any questions? All in favor of Alice's report? Carried. Division 2, Councillor report.
So as you can understand, the farmers just got done seeding, so I haven't been at the seed plant for a little while. I haven't, chairman hasn't called a meeting. I know it's not listed in the agenda there, but I just wanted to to let everybody know. Also, things are going well with the Water Corporation. 1 of 3 cells are complete at the reservoir site. The pipeline construction should be done by the end of July, and we should have water to Gleason by September. Testing will be in July. I guess we'll be done the pipeline at the end of June. And started construction for expansion and standard for Rockyford and future connections, so that's been started as well. We also, I'm not sure that you were there, we did discuss it at one of the meetings too about a land purchase for rural water, I'm trying to think of the term, where they come get the water. Transfer site, thank you, yes. Transfer site. So, so we're in discussions with that right now, but that's kind of what's going on. You know, we have been a little behind on a few things, but Baja seems to have a good grasp on it and seem to be catching up. The engineers seem to have a very good grasp on what's going on. Sarah gave us an update last meeting as well, so there's not too many questions they can't answer. Alice had a question.
Yes, to Rex through the chair. I see they're putting water in at the school. They're doing some, the line on private property there. Did they just get an easement on that property, or did they have to purchase it? Do you know that runs on the north side of 561 for a mile?
I would assume that was just an easement. I don't, because land purchase for that, I don't remember coming through. The only land purchases I remember are transfer sites and infrastructure.
And so when would the school actually get hooked up, do you know?
Well, it would be the same time because it can't, you know.
So it's once it all gets to Gleason
It would be
and
running at
everything's
this
done
school.
then?
That's my understanding. I could
Yeah.
ask if there's a, I
No,
don't
that-
imagine they would test that pipeline, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And put a connection in after that. I would assume it would all be done at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll move my report.
Any other questions for Rex in his report? All in favor? Carried. Division 4, Council Report.
Okay, we had our annual meeting, and it was really quite good. So Michelle sent all the information, so you can read it all, what was in there from the finances, et cetera. She has, they need about 2 acres if they want to build a new library area. And so they've been meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs for more funding. I haven't heard how that's gone. There's been a member increase, which is, I think, really great, and they're working with Siksika Nation and Stoney Nations and giving them cards so that they can actually come and use the libraries. And in Gleason, I guess, quite a few Siksika people come and use it. So other than that, that's pretty much it. They do a marvelous job. It's a really well-run organization, and they work really well as a team. So I'm quite impressed with our library system here.
Okay, moving your report, Bernice?
Oh, yes, I'll move my report.
Is there any questions? Alice?
I just want to make a comment to Bernice about the Gleason Library. I went in when they were renovating, and after, they've done a fabulous job there. And certainly increased the membership and the usage of that Gleason Library. It's unbelievable from a few years ago to now. It's really come ahead.
And she's really pushing to have more natives come in too, which I think is really nice, you know. She wants
Yeah.
to get them educated in that.
Yeah,
Yeah, very well run, yeah. I
give
agree
them
with you.
my congratulations.
I will do
They've done
that.
a great job.
Yeah, because she's proud of.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Division 5, Councilor Report.
So on FCM, there were 4 resolutions passed. One is that prior to any decision, resolution be it resolved, that prior to any decision by the federal department on relocating a federal facility, that the business case, including an economic impact analysis, be submitted to PCSPC and consultation with the impacted community occurred. So this addressed it, and this was put forth by the town of Vegreville. So that's one of our local guys or provincial guys that got the resolution put forward. The other one was resolved, there's only 4, so resolved that the Federation of Canadian Municipalities call on the Government of Canada to secure a full and fair provincial and territorial government contribution toward the eligible costs, including in the key infrastructure programs outlined in Budget 17. So that was that one. And the third one was, be it resolved that the Government of Canada equally engaged in dialogue with Indigenous organizations to ensure that the Canadian Poverty Reduction Strategy meets the distinct needs of Canadian Indigenous communities. And that was put forward by the City of Prince George. I'll give you these, Margaret, sorry. And it was passed. And the last one being that, which is all relevant in light of local news lately, that the FCM continue to work with the federal government to support the interests of municipalities across Canada affected by the U.S. countervailing duties on softwood lumber, and 2, work to ensure the federal government understands the full impact of trade measures related to softwood lumber on local economies and conveys that impact to U.S. counterparts. And that was put forward by the Quebec caucus through FCM. So those are the resolutions that were brought forward this year, so that went through. One of the interesting things that I wanted to talk about was, you can take one and pass it down. I attended a broadband, securing broadband, and essentially it was a conversation, and there's a pilot project put on by the City of Calgary that they're increasing their broadband to have direct response for their emergency responders. So essentially what that is the RCMP, the videos on their beans, I guess, or on their bodies that they are connected. And instead of using the public network like Facebook and just the regular that we every day use, they're connecting their broadband so that officers and ambulance people have direct connection for emergency connection. And Calgary is the pilot project for it. What you have in front of you is from the gal who was the Privacy Commission. And she was in charge of the Privacy Commission. But what it is, for example, they're taking, tickets in those photo radars. Yeah. So her job is to make sure that those services that we employ are within the privacy guidelines. So in other words, the city would there's cities that, or people that, or I guess communities that would save the plates of people that weren't speeding, and she says you can't do that. So this is essentially part of the whole programming of making sure that what we do as municipalities and in relation to broadband and surveillance, and what they're trying to do is actually, for example, if a kid that's 13 is on the radar way back when, they can carry it through, and they're trying to use this broadband in prevention to our communities. So this is the document that was provided by, I don't have her name, actually I left a book sitting on the table that I meant to do. But it was really good on the broadband, so, and if there's any more questions, I can try to answer them, but I don't have the name of the panel that was there. I left it on my table, so that's my FCM report.
Okay.
And then the other one is this letter that you received. So I'm going to refer back to you, because I haven't even had a chance to read it. So I guess we all read it together.
I read it yesterday. I was just wondering if this is something that could go to the ASB meeting for discussion.
What did we do in previous years? I don't think this is the first time we've had this.
Yeah, and I don't know that actually.
I don't know that either. When did the letter, it came to the Reeve, so I'm not sure.
All our funding for agriculture in the past been through the Ag Service Board, I think. I would say just transfer it or give it to the Ag Service Board and they'll have all the research there.
Okay. So I'll refer Mr. Kestner's letter to the Reeves letter to the Ag Service Board. So then I guess I move my report.
Is there any questions for Brenda in her report? All in favor? Carried.
Do you want this, Margaret?
Chief of Minister's Officers Report.
Good morning. My report's attached. I don't have anything to add if there's any questions.
Any questions for CAO? Go ahead, Ella.
I have one question. On the Safety Day and barbecue,
Yes.
I put that in as a paid day. I understand that that was not a resolution brought forward. Is that right, Al?
There was no resolution, Mr. Chairman, for council to be paid to attend Safety Day. So that's council's decision. If you wish to make that motion, please
Oh, I
proceed.
just thought it was mandatory.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was mandatory because of last year's training. But thank you, we'll move that forward in a different manner. Thank you.
My switch is going to wear out. Can I get a button and some tape and hold it down? I do that on the pivots. I won't tell you what I use for a button. It just fits perfect. Okay, no questions. Motion to accept CAO's report. Rex is moved. All in favor? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Corporate and Financial Services Report. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, councillors. So my report is on page 214 of your agenda package. So there's a couple items attached. I'll start kind of in the more significant areas. So on May 29th, our project, the implementation of Diamond, was officially moved from the implementation phase to the support phase. So what that means is that all the major modules have been completed. Any staff members with questions can contact Diamond directly. All the issues have been resolved. There was maybe a couple minor ones that we're still kind of working on. Nothing of significant value, though. And with that, there's a couple other different reports attached with with this and with the next RFD as well. Also attached to the RFD is a summary of the investment amounts that the county holds. These investment amounts are as of May 24th, so the amount is 55.4 million. I've attached a list of the purchase date, the maturity date, and the amounts. And just on the second page of that is the investment percentage by financial institution. So currently we hold all of our investments with either ATB or Chinook Credit Union, and those go through the process implemented by council of going to RFP to ask each credit union which has the highest rate, so we can follow that process as well. And then on the last 4 pages of that first report are the bank reconciliations for January, February, March, and April. Oh, okay.
I'll do it at the
Okay. So these bank reconciliations, there was a little bit of a lag at this point to get them completed, and that's just due to the implementation that we were completing. So they're now up to date. We're just working on May as we speak. The new report, it works very well. It's now an automated bank reconciliation, which it was more of a manual process before. So we're saving time and being more efficient with that as well.
Okay, Alice, you have a question?
I noticed in your report that we have a new payroll person. So my question is, I know we talked about it a couple of months ago or a month or so, is that there was to be an audit on the payroll. Is that all being handled by that person or someone outside the office?
So the payroll audit is being handled by an independent party. That independent party is KPMG, our auditors. I just been in contact with them today, and they said that they're very, very close to getting me something. So that's being handled exclusively externally. That has no staff involvement. Our only involvement is providing the information requested.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
That was those, the two guys that were here and they did all the audits in that room, right? Is that the same people, right? That's what I
Yes, that's
thought.
correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Motion for the unaudited financial statements?
I so move the acceptance of the unaudited financial statement for April 30th, 2017
Okay, any
as
questions?
information. Thanks.
Any questions? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks for that. That's nice to get that report.
No problem.
Okay, continue on. Are you going to be part of the master schedule of fees?
Yes, I'll present the schedule of fees.
Okay. Oh, okay. And council, I need a motion to accept the corporate and financial services report as information. Bernice has moved. All in favor? Carried. Thanks. Okay, now the master schedule of fees.
Okay, so what we have done is we've went in and adjusted some rates. On the actual schedule of fees itself, just on the last page, just for council's note. So anything in yellow was sent to council on May 2nd. Anything in green was also sent to council on May 2nd. And anything in red has been edited from May 2nd to June 6th. So kind of my thought today is what we could do is go through the master schedule of fees through by department. So what I'm proposing is that we first go through the administrative items on the master fee schedule, and then we move to the second one, the second department, which would be ASB, and then we move to planning, public works, and protective services. And any questions that council may have, that manager or person can address those appropriately.
Okay, so we'll do administration now, so that would be starting on what, 228?
Yes, that's correct. So it'd start on page 228. And would just go down to the bottom of 228.
Okay. Any questions? Tiny writing. No questions? Don? Turn your mic on, Don, please, so we can hear all of that. We all
Okay.
hear it?
This is in regards to, a while ago, we had to see what cemeteries were registered. And there's one south of Thiessen's feedlot, and it belongs to the Mennonites, and it's not registered. Yet there's, it's for their, I was just wondering why that one wasn't registered.
Don, yeah.
The only municipal cemeteries we have are in Rosebud and Gleason. And that's the only ones we're responsible for, Don. So those are the only registered ones that Wheatland County is responsible for, so.
This one isn't even on the books.
No, and I can't speak to that. You'd have to talk to the province on why that's not registered. So, sorry about that.
It's out of all ballpark. Okay, any other questions on our schedule of fees, Brenda?
So I guess the land use bylaw redesignation. So we're charging $1,000 to rezone? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is
Never mind,
just,
sorry.
after we complete administration, we'll go to ASB. Oh. Oh, no worries.
Okay, we're just on the first page, 228. Administration. Any questions? If none, we'll move on to the next. Sure. ASB. Any questions? Ellis.
I have a question, and maybe it should come up at Ag Service. We talked about spraying along the side of the road for weeds or grass. Could that go on, should that go on Ag Service to discuss? What do you think?
Yes, that's who does it.
Yeah, so maybe we could put that on an Ag Service, because I've been asked a few times why we aren't keeping the grass off the side of the road. And I know we talked about it, I don't know, 5 years or 6 years ago. So
Next Ag
could
Service meeting, put that on the agenda.
just bring it forward?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions on fee schedule for Ag Service Board?
I have one on the rural addressing sign.
Ag
So
Service Board,
that's Ag Service,
is it?
yeah. It's about halfway down in yellow, says rural addressing.
That's under planning.
Oh,
Yeah.
aren't we going page by page?
No, we're going section by section.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, pardon me.
Ag
I'm-
Service is only about 15 lines there, or whatever.
Okay, we'll bring it up later.
Any questions on the Ag Service? If not, we'll go to the signs and planning and development. Alice, you got a question? Turn your mic on.
Through the chair to Mr. Parkins, is the $100 just to replace the sign, or the cost of putting the sign up?
That's the cost that council made a motion on May 2nd of 2017 to approve the installation of those signs is $100. That's what we're charging for new signs.
For the new sign and the installation?
That's correct,
So it's
yes.
combined?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to know. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? On planning and development.
I
ahead,
did
Alice.
have a question, and I don't see it here. But what my question was when in planning, there's the fee to register for, which I did, was the boundary adjustment of,
It's right under planning subdivision endorsement.
right
Here.
there, yeah. So it costs $450 to do that. Thanks, Gary. And then there was a further fee when it came after subdivision approval of, I believe it was $450 that we paid again. And that was, I was quite disappointed when I seen there was 2 lines on a piece of paper. It cost me more to get the approval or a letter saying it was approved by MPC than it did for me to pay my lawyer, which was $275. So my question is why it's so much? Because it's obviously done by MPC here. Our staff is paid and, to bring that to council, to MPC. So why would a letter cost $450?
Go ahead.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman. Sorry, and council, so via the chair, answer the question. It is not unusual to have subdivision application fee initially for the outset. So when somebody applies to subdivision, there's a subdivision application fee. Should that subdivision get approved, then there's an endorsement fee that gets attached to it, and you'll see that in most municipalities as well. Sometimes they will collect the endorsement fee at the same time, and it's all blended in, so you will see a bigger number typically, or whatever the case may be. But in other municipalities such as ours, we separate it out. The reason being in large part is because if the subdivision doesn't get approved, thank you for the application fee, it stays with the county, there's no money back to you if it gets refused. And then we don't have to deal with a refund of the endorsement fee because you wouldn't be able to endorse it obviously anyway. So there's no refund involved. So I guess that's sort of, I think, maybe historically been the reason behind it. That's been in play before I've been at the county, so it would probably seem a rational reason why they weren't merged together. With regards to the value, like I had indicated back on May 2nd when we sat down and explained this the first time around, is the fees were based on being comparable with other adjacent municipalities. And based on that, we felt that the application fee for subdivision, or in this case boundary adjustment, and the endorsement fee for boundary adjustment was equitable with other municipalities, so we were comparable. The fact that you have a really good lawyer, I would probably say, in that kind of rate, good for you as a councillor, as a landowner. But we don't take that into consideration on what the additional costs are, because we know for a fact as an applicant, you may involve a lawyer, you're most definitely going to involve a surveyor, and then there's registration fees of land titles too as well. And those amounts may vary depending on the individuals you pick to do your work for you. So we don't take that into account when we come up with our fees. Ours was simply based on what are similar municipalities charging, what have we been charging historically, and do we change that or modify that in any way, shape, or form. Now, a good opportunity to get in here and indicate we have a lot of pink on the screen, you've noticed. And I'm taking this to all of council. So what we did is, under the guidance of our new general manager, Angie Lucas, we took a look at all our fees, because when we initially came to council on May 2nd, we were of the understanding we were speaking to the fees we were suggesting get changed or added in. And then when it was mentioned that maybe our fees aren't in alignment anymore, and again, our fees were based on comparisons, I think it was in 2015, so we were about 2 years out, and we weren't doing a full review. So since that date, we did do a full review, and that it was initiated essentially that day on May 2nd, as you may recall. So what you see in pink is the approach we're taking from planning and development's perspective is we want to adjust our fees to be either equal to or less than most municipalities around us that are similar in size. So then we can use that as a great marketing tool and promote economic development, say we are open for business, we are lower in most cases, I won't say every case, we're lower than most municipalities. And hopefully that will encourage that the money that we may lose because we've dropped our fees down, we can recoup in more business and more applications. So that was sort of the tack we've taken, and now in why you see the pink where you didn't see the pink before. In the majority of cases, those applications are either equal to or less than most of the comparable municipalities around us. Trying to think what else I can add to that. In the case of subdivision and land use, you won't notice that the fees change, and there's a reason for that. The reason being is, while it's okay, in my opinion, as the manager of planning, to adjust the fees for endorsement or to adjust the fees for development permit fees in some way, shape, or form, land use and subdivision, we don't necessarily want to drop the fees and make it really inexpensive to apply for those. We are a county that the policies, the bigger overarching policies we have in the MDP is encourage and protect agricultural development. So with that being the case, if my concern is if we drop the subdivision application fees to a couple $100s, which is considerably lower than most municipalities, everybody and anybody may just throw in applications after because it's fairly cheap. Now, as you may notice, when you get past the application point, there's a whole bunch of fees that you're going to have to pay to consultants after the fact. And so it definitely makes it disproportionate. So the rationale between having the fees basically stay the same for subdivision and redesignation is we felt that's a pretty safe benchmark, and it's comparable to a lot of municipalities, and doesn't encourage everybody and anybody to submit because it's so cheap to submit an application. So if council disagrees, by all means, the fee schedule is yours to adjust accordingly, but that's the rationale behind why most of the fees were modified to be less than or equal to adjacent, so we can promote that and really work that from an economic development perspective, but also not make them too expensive or too cheap on some of those fronts, so that we are taking applications and applications and applications when ultimately we're trying to preserve ag land as opposed to encourage the one-offs, which we have a lot of. So may have been long-winded on that one, but so hopefully that answers that one question. And that was just also me explaining why we have all the pink today.
Yeah, and my comment back, the legal fees didn't include any of the surveying or the land titles.
Correct.
This was just the legal fees. A lot of lawyers are charging, up to $500 an hour for fees. So I took that into consideration. And with doing all the work as far as the legal part for purchasing land, it's the part I was talking about, that is what it cost me for the legal for purchasing the land. It was, I think, $275 for the legal part to register in land titles. So that still is, well, close to what we're charging, $450 for 2 lines on a piece of paper. I didn't feel that the planning are not legal. They're not legally trained. They do give that paper, but that's where I was looking at the fee for a lawyer is $275, and for an employee of the county who's already being paid by the hour is charging $450. That was my look at it, and I'm looking at it not just about myself. I'm looking at it, what does the public think when they come in and see that? And they go to a lawyer, they're using very much the same lawyer as I am, and they're saying the same thing. How come the county's charging that much? Because they feel it's out of whack with what legal charges them. So I think we need to look at that, but maybe that's just me.
And through the chair, if I can just sort of touch on that. I did allude to that a bit on May 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, that we don't do cost recovery. So it isn't based on an analysis of how many hours a planner or a development officer spend on an application, and then we work the numbers that way. We don't calculate it that way. The numbers were based on simply what is comparable rates out there in the industry, what have we been charging historically, and where do we think that appropriately fits. In no way, shape, or form have any of those numbers been based on what our hourly count is, because as I indicated again on May 2nd, our fees would be exorbitant if we were to base it on how many hours. Even if you said your staff member was 25 an hour, to do it on some of these applications would be just astronomical in what the fees should be. So it isn't really an appropriate way to do it. I don't think any other municipality does it that way. So we haven't gone in that route. So while I appreciate the fact that you're talking about what the hourly rates are for the lawyers, when we do the fees, we don't look at hourly period, and we don't compare it against other industry rates, be it surveyors or engineers or lawyers in this case.
Just a comment through the chair. Yes, the staff is getting paid to do the job, but if we didn't have developments, we wouldn't need the staff. So there's a reason they're there to do that development and the paper and all the work that's following that. That's why they get paid. If we didn't have anybody asking for developments in the county, we wouldn't need that department, so.
Okay. Brenda?
Doesn't. So on your land use bylaw redesignation, which is essentially rezoning, is it not?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, so it's $1,000 for country residential or ag residential, as you call it. So I guess my curiosity is then your recreational goes up to $1,250 and then the $1,500 for commercial. So in order for somebody to come and separate the first parcel out, let's say of a home quarter of a section, it would be the $1,000 and it would cost them $1,750 to come in and do that subdivision, I guess, because you'd have to rezone it as it goes.
Through the chair, sorry, can you run me through that one again on how you did your math?
Okay, so if I'm subdividing, I just want to get this in my head. If I'm subdividing 3 acres off my farmstead, and not that I am, I'm just suggesting this is the scenario, and then it goes to country residential, which is ag residential according to the master fee schedule, I would be paying $1,750 total with that. So I guess my question is for that, why is it more to do a subdivision than a rezoning? Because the rezoning is less than what a subdivision is. As far as, like your subdivision requires land, all that stuff, but a rezoning is essentially a motion of council.
Yeah, through the chair, and maybe I'm missing it. I'll try to walk you through how I would calculate if an applicant came in for a 3-acre subdivision for country residential. So first off, you would submit a redesignation application to go from AG to CR in typical, most cases. With that comes, excuse me, with that comes a $1,000 redesignation fee. So if it gets through the redesignation stage, then you come into the subdivision application stage. So on the fee schedule, an application for subdivision, where we're dealing with all subdivision applications, the first lot, which this one would be because it's a 1-lot subdivision out of the quarter section, it's a $900 fee. So you have the $1,000 for the land use, you have $900 for the subdivision, and depending on how many lots have been taken out of the quarter section, you may end up collecting an appraisal fee of $600, which is the cost to do the MR calculation. So there may be an additional amount on there. So that's a variable. It all depends on the site, the application. So there may be an additional $600 on that as well. Now, as you all know, as council, is if there is a municipal reserve to be collected, on the back end, there'll be a condition for a fee. And it could range from anything to anything, big to small. So then there, as an applicant, you're required to pay that too. The benefit is it's a one-time fee on that parcel of land. Trying to think. Those are sort of the standard fees. So you're well beyond the 17 just to apply for land use and subdivision.
Okay, so,
Sorry, I'll just interject. The question was, the planning, the redesignation is just the motion of council. Why is that 1,000? So what goes into redesignating a parcel? I'm thinking it's a little
All the
bit
steps
more
required?
it's a little bit more than a motion of council.
Okay, so I can do the Coles Notes version best I can for an application for redesignation subdivision. So for a redesignation application, an applicant comes in, and they may or may not speak to staff ahead of time to get some kind of guidance on whether they should, how they should approach a redesignation application. So there may be time required for that. The application comes in, typically as the manager of the planning department, I will look at the application and deem it complete, meaning have they met all the requirements on the checklist that is in our package that every applicant's required to meet and adhere to for us to start to process an application. Once that's done, the file gets passed on to one of my staff who then puts it into our system now, our new database we have. So all that information off the application plus some additional information we need to process gets put into the system. We then assign it to a file manager, one of the planners on the file, or one in the county here. So then that individual will then start preparing mapping and everything else you see in your staff reports. They will also prepare the staff report, but not before the document gets put into circulation both internally, which involves presenting it to our internal groups and our internal departments, and that takes time as well to prepare for that and speak to it, present it, and then collect all the information internally as well. And then if it's a clean application in the sense that there's no issues or concerns, very little time is spent to deal with that application after the internal review is done. Now, they also have to do an external review. So we send it to all the external agencies, be it WID, be it AHS. And again, depending on what their feedback is, we got to take their information in, enter it into the system so we have a record of it. And if there's any issues that come out of it, we have to do follow-up with that individual or that entity to determine if this is going to have an impact on the application or not, and what does it mean. And then thirdly, the application, because it's land use, has a public component to it, a public hearing component to it, which then we also then circulate all the application itself to area residents now under the new bylaw within 1.6 kilometers of the application in hand. So staff are involved in the circulating of the letters and also any feedback that comes from area residents that have questions, concerns, et cetera. Let's assume there's maybe an issue or two. We may have a letter that comes in from a ratepayer that has to be processed, documented, and ensured it's put into the staff report. This basically gets us near to the back end. I may be missing a few minor steps, but I think that's the gist, where the staff then prepares the staff report, compiles all the internal, external, adjacent landowner information if there's anything available, and prepares their recommendation for council. And then we do go to council with it. So those are the steps generally involved in a redesignation application. It's a little bit more complicated than 1 or 2 steps. It's a series of steps which can take anywhere for land use, anywhere from 4 months if you're lucky because of all the time requirements we have to hit and provide adequate time for circulation to the time in front of council on a simple application. So that the land use subdivision is similar in a lot of ways, with the exception that we have technical studies and reports that can really slow down a file if they end up going back and forth between the consultants and the engineers. And staff's involved in that process as well, as the sort of overseeing it as the file manager.
Answer your question?
yeah, it does, but I'm just going to, sorry, it does, yeah. in a sense, I guess. But so when we talked about that and I asked about the 750, so on a subdivision application versus a farmstead application, the fee is 750 versus 900. So I guess it goes back to farmstead on first parcel out, which would be just a first subdivision. I guess shouldn't everybody be treated first subdivision? It should be the same amount regardless of whether it's a farmstead or, I guess is my question to you.
Through the chair, so I'll speak briefly to that. So yes, when we did the fee schedule, I think it was back in 2015, when I was involved, is I believe we actually separated it out and gave a bit of a discount to those who did a first parcel out or a homestead, depending on how you want to refer to it. That came from my experience with Rocky View County and other rurals where they've had rules that doing a first parcel out of your quarter section was almost a given right as a landowner. And so the process was quicker. The application fees were less. Some municipalities roll in the land use and the subdivision fee and process into that, and they run them all concurrent. And so it really makes it more efficient for that individual. And that kind of goes back historically with first parcels out and the individual that if you spent all the time on the quarter section and then you wanted to still stay on the quarter section and hand the rest of it off to your family, you get that title. So that's sort of where my background was when it was my recommendation to put forward a lower fee for that component. So the first parcel out person who in theory has been on that land for a long period of time got a bit of a deal on price. Now, if council's of the opinion that everybody should be treated equally, then that's council's decision, but that's my rationale for why that was in there back in 2015. That isn't a change from where we are now. That's been in play since we brought the fees back, I believe, in 2015. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
So I still struggle with this quite a bit, and maybe we need to have some thought behind why we're doing it. I go back and I know Ben says if we didn't have planning, we wouldn't be paying for planning. What it's about, in my view, is it's ratepayers. We have our ratepayers in our county. So we have planning, we have ag service, we have all these groups within our county that we serve the public with. They all get paid, everybody gets salary. So if this isn't about how many hours we spend doing something for our ratepayers, then what is it about? That's kind of where I'm getting at, is it's not about how many hours you spend on this, that this fee is calculated on. Is that not what I got from you, or am I? Yeah, it's not on that. So it's on some kind of a theory we've got that somehow we need to get another fee from our ratepayer for doing a permit, or in this case, changing a land titles or a designation, right? From Ag General, say, to CR. So it still doesn't explain why we're even charging our ratepayers that money. To me, we're not justifying why we keep upping these fees and we add a fee. It's not just one fee, it's a fee after a fee after a fee. And that's what I'm hearing from the public, is saying, is this fee put in to make money for the county to pay because they don't pay enough taxes? Or, really, what is that fee all about? Because we're here to serve the ratepayers. That's the part I'm getting at. So how do we serve our ratepayers better? By charging fees for everything they do when they come in the door, plus
Okay,
their taxes?
Give me a stab at that one, Alice.
No, but
That's a council thing,
Yeah, I
it's
guess
a
maybe-
direction of council, right?
I guess maybe council needs that
right, yeah.
discussion, eh?
Okay, so council's thing is always be comparable to the other municipalities. That's our basic premise.
Thought.
When we had the discussion before, we decided, no, we're not going to do cost recovery because A, it's difficult to figure out, and B, it's maybe exorbitant.
Yeah,
Okay, so we took the other, probably easier road, we'll try and be the same. Now, if council wants to throw it right open, charge no fees, that's a council decision. Or we could have more.
or a good
That's a
discussion.
council decision,
Yeah.
right?
So
It's-
we need
It's
a
how
good
we're going to
discussion.
be open for business. We're going to
Okay.
be the same, or slightly lower, slightly, yeah. That is a different discussion than what the fees are. These fees are, we've heard from Gary,
Yeah.
a reflection on the area surrounding us, basically.
Yeah.
Okay?
So then maybe we should put that as a discussion for council on the next committee of the whole?
If council wants to go down that road of a
I sure
different
do.
structure,
Yeah.
then that's different. But for councilors to go around and say it's $1,000 just for a motion in council, we've heard that motion in council to get it is 4 months out. There's a lot of, you get a report, you get everything else. Same as $400 for 2 lines on an application. There takes time to write out 2 lines on an application, and we don't put our hours down. That they come in and they do their work. And the council's always been of the idea that the developer's got to pay something. So I remember the talk on the first parcel out and the homestead. These are usually our ratepayers, and they've been here for a long time. People that are doing multiple subdivisions are usually developers.
Yeah.
And that's why that difference is there. That's from what I remember. From what I'm hearing from you is you would like a talk on this philosophy of how we do it.
Right.
And I think that's different than
Yeah.
what the fee schedule is. The fee
Well,
schedule is reflective on our present philosophy.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
So on a future meeting, that we have time for this, or we want to do it, we could certainly talk about the philosophy on how we charge.
Yeah,
I think would be a more appropriate place for that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Ellis, for raising the question. So is there any more question on the fees themselves?
I just have one.
Go
Unless
ahead.
you have something. I still haven't, I guess, the very last line of the document, the only other thing that I have is the very last line on the document, which is any item not listed above as cost plus 20%. And I did ask the last time that we sent this back is how we come up with the 20%, or why put the 20%? Why not just put cost recovery? And why we add 20% onto everything. We get cost, we should be happy, I thought.
If that goes back a few years, council did not want to take away any work from the private sector. They weren't to come in here and ask us to do this or that, and then we expect us to go get it. If we're going to charge 20%, we thought at the time that would be enough of a deterrent, and they would go ask the appropriate person to do it. And we don't charge 20% on everything we do. It was just a deterrent against the private, no different than plowing roads on snow. We asked the private sector to pave driveways. It's the only thing. Ellen?
So that's on there if there's no fee that applies?
That's right.
That's not been used in 5 to 6 years that I understand. If you don't want it on there, take it out.
Yeah.
It's a council decision. You have to make a decision.
Sending a bad message out there, we'll take it off.
Well, I think cost plus is fine, but I just can't determine what the 20% is, right? So I just don't know where we put
It's a
that number.
deterrent. So that was the last, so we're still on planning. Is there any more questions on the planning part? Rex, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. We'll move on to Public Works. Rex, you got a question?
So the culvert fees, what is that? It's a question I'm trying to ask. The culvert fee, so is that a fee to a resident that comes in and wants to buy a culvert, or is that a fee to, explain that to me a little clearer. I was trying to think of, because I didn't think we sold culverts to our residents. Used ones we do, yes, but I mean new ones. So somebody explain that.
Yeah, and through the chair, we typically don't. I think that was just put in the fee schedule for the instance that we did have excess culverts that were new. If we did an over order or something like that, you're correct. We used to have the used culverts given away to the residents. We had too many problems with that, so we put them on the fee schedule with a set unit price for them. But yeah, the new culverts are if and when we do have excess. Rather than sell them as used, we have them listed as a new product because they haven't been installed, and then set a price for that.
So just to clarify, I'm not opposed to it whatsoever. I just want it clarified, so if somebody asks me, I have an answer for them. So I'll just go with that for now. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, just a short question then too for Public Works. Just because we have a fee schedule there for a new culvert doesn't mean we will sell them. It's still at your discretion, Public Works, if they're excess or we don't need it or whatever, it's still at Public Works discretion, is it not? Or-
That's correct. Through the chair, like you had mentioned in the past, they were not looking to compete with any private industry here. We bring these in. We do get a deal, but we are using them through our road projects, through our approach approvals or approach construction, that sort of thing. So we order typically at the beginning of the year with our culvert tender. It's what we assume we need, and sometimes it's too little, sometimes it's too much. So that's why that fee is in the schedule there.
Any other questions on Public Works, Alice?
But to clarify that, the used culverts are some of the culverts that come out of the old road allowances that the county usually will sell off to the farmer. Is that not what the culverts used is priced at? Is that
Yeah,
right?
that's correct. Through the chair, like I say, a lot of the culverts, when we reconstruct a road, we don't like typically putting used culverts in there because we don't know the timeline, the lifespan that they've been in there to begin with. So if they're in good condition and haven't been
Right.
damaged during removal, we'll sell them at a reduced rate there. And it's really a first come,
First
first serve for those
Yeah.
sort of things. Usually they're snapped up pretty quickly, so we
Good job.
don't have them in the yard here very long. So.
Okay, any other questions for Public Works? If not, we'll move on to Protective Services. Nothing on Protective Services? Then we'll move on to motor vehicle, that's still the same. Protective Services off and Fire Services next. Any questions on Fire Services? Any questions? Other extraordinary services. And this is where the cost plus 20% was in. Did anyone miss any questions? Rex?
Yeah, I noticed there's some items in the agenda today about fireworks in regards to permits and that. Is that in here under fire services, or are we charging for that? Or is that only for a commercial application? Like I'm more asking about as a resident if I want to light fireworks.
Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you, through the chair. There is a bylaw coming up later on today where Judy will be presenting that information. So would you like me to go and get her now to come and answer some specific questions, or?
Well, I don't want to jump the agenda item. I just don't want to pass something that we haven't looked at yet. Does that make sense?
But it's coming up later.
It's coming up?
It's,
So if we
yes.
pass this, that's not included in there. Is that correct? All right, that's all I need to know.
Okay, that's 3.4D1, I'm thinking, coming up. Okay. We're just on the master schedule of fees now. I'll go back to the recommendation that council approve. Council's wishes. If there's no more questions.
So
Ben?
I'll move the recommendation to accept it as it's stated, and knowing that this is a living document also. It's nothing that's set in stone. If something happens, we can always go into it. So I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for the work. Did I get all the motions I needed for the corporate and financial services report? Okay. We'll move on to transportation and infrastructure services report. Go ahead, Mike, whenever you're ready.
Okay, good morning, Council.
Good morning.
So through the chair, you have the report in front of you. I'll just touch on a few highlights of it. All the crews are back working now. We have the reconstruction crew is currently working on Range Road 253, rebuilding that down by Carsland. And then from there, they'll be moving over to potentially 254, Range Road 254, just west of Strathmore there. We closed a couple tenders for the Carsland Capital Works, so it's a number of areas in Carsland where we'll be doing some water and wastewater replacement and road rehabilitation. As well, we closed just last week the contractor tender for the reconstruction of Range Road 240, or sorry, Range Road 201 and Township 240, just south of Hazar. So we got 6 bids, I believe, on that. I'll be bringing a recommendation on that to the next council meeting, just for acceptance of that. Public Works Edition is going forward. The site is prepared now. The contracts are signed, so they'll be beginning work in August for that, just so everyone's aware. Sorry? So that's Public Works addition to the shop there. A 20,000 square foot addition to the existing shop. And those are the highlights. So if anyone had any questions or anything in addition.
Any questions? Ben?
Just, I'm starting to get the odd call about dust control. When are we looking at doing the two?
I believe the first application deadline, I think it was June 1st was the deadline on that. For calcium chloride. Oil we do in later in July there, so they have a little bit of time if they want to make an application for that. But I'll confirm that, but I believe the deadline has changed or passed for calcium on that.
So the oil, they can come in right now though and get their applications in place.
That's correct, and we prefer that, just so we know ahead of time how many we're doing on that. We do have 2 applications of calcium, as you know, per year, so we'll do another one in the fall here if that ratepayer wanted to apply for that at that time.
So you're saying it'll be August before they get their oil, if they're applying?
Oiling deadline is July 7th.
July 7th. Okay.
Tomorrow. Oh,
July, that's a month away, yeah. So they gotta live with it for a while yet. Okay.
Well, just an. I shut your mic off, sorry.
And that's the reason the oil is later on is because of the availability of the product.
Availability product, and we like to put it down in warmer temperatures to make sure that it sets up properly. So we generally get a better result when we put it down in late summer. My apologies, I have to, just looking at the website here, the second application is actually being accepted right now until June. So we've bumped it up quite a bit this year. So actually June 9th is the deadline for the second application on that. The first application was in May. This is for calcium. Yeah. Yeah. And depending on, like, in the past, we have, if we get a large contingent of folks wanting it and later in the fall, we'll bring another for a third application. And I think just with timelines here, we must have bumped it up a little bit here just to get it done and out of the way.
Yeah, so that's in regards to calcium application for if I want to come in and get it. What about the county approved spots that we've done? You know what I'm referencing? So areas that we've done as a county to maintain dust control.
As far as that,
What's the application?
Yeah, we typically do that. Like as far as within the hamlets, through the chair within the hamlets, we do that throughout the year depending on when it's needed. So, is there a certain area?
Well, there's the one road that we started last year, and I don't have it up in front of me, which is the boundary, just about the boundary road against Strathmore.
Okay.
I call it where all the Murrays live down that fire. No, it's
On the
not
north side of the highway?
North
or-
side, on the north side. So
Yeah.
we had done some work up there.
Right.
So I maybe, I guess, wondering about that and whatever else, like, so has that, an application been done already, or you're just doing it as needed?
Yeah, that road had asphalt millings installed on it. It's the one just west of Strathmore?
I thought we had discussed the asphalt millings. I thought we were gonna hold that off because we were gonna redo that road.
Okay, so you're talking about the one south of the highway then? Sorry.
No, I am talking about the one north of the highway. I can maybe do it off,
Sure.
of the
we
council,
can
maybe we
confirm
can
just to make
discuss
sure we
that,
know
yeah.
which road we're talking about there.
And then we can get a better idea what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Don?
Mike, what about, while you're down in Carson, site for the new fire hall?
Yes.
And also the site in Strathmore for the new school? Is that on the program?
As far as regrading the site and getting it prepared?
For the fire hall in Carson, yeah, and the
Right.
new school in north of the co-op in Strathmore was going to be shared by the county?
That's
By
right.
the town.
Perhaps Alan knows a little bit more about the school. Dave and Alan were working primarily on that, and I believe we've missed a window for where they needed the work completed to, if Alan could speak to that.
So on the Carzine Fire Hall, yes, our crews would be getting in there later this year when we get out to do tendering on that facility. On the second question, in regards to the new school recreation facility in Strathmore, we've not been given the go-ahead to go to that site, on that site yet. We are waiting for approval or recommendation from the town of Strathmore on accessing that site. They, as you recall, and it was brought to council back in April, they asked if council would consider building a pond off that site, and that's wasn't recommended, and council didn't approve that, so we're still waiting to hear back. Our crews are all out, fully going, so we've indicated to them that they've kind of missed the window. They had a big window from October of last year till April of this year, so I have not had any follow-up with the town of Strathmore on where they're at on approvals and getting on that site, so.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Ben? I
Through
think Patty's been
through the chair to Alan, when they're discussing that application, I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, that extra work that they're asking us to do when if and when they bring something forward, can we ask them why it's so far from the school site, or is this storage lagoon being put in place not only for their use, but for the use of further development of the community around there?
I've indicated to them that we would not be going off-site. The original agreement was to do only the site work as directed by council, so that off-site pond, we're not in a position to do that.
Okay, Alice?
If you go down to waste transfer sites, and I don't see Clooney mentioned on here. I did talk to CAO. We were going to, I believe we was going to bring something today, but I didn't see it on here. So maybe I can ask. Clooney, I've been getting calls, people upset about, they're under the impression the county's shutting the transfer site down. I didn't think that was our intent. But can we get some clarification for our community? I know I talked to Alan a little bit, and maybe the CAO can, we talked about costs, and Alan came up with, I believe, $35 a load for, or a truck that goes in is what it costs us for that site. Could you explain that, Alan? Because I didn't grasp what you were trying to
So
tell
the
me.
information is being put together, and we could probably bring that back to the meeting on the 20th. Do you think, Mike? Yeah. So we'll bring back all that information on the 20th, use your numbers and all that. Rather than speculate about it, we'll get you the proper information, okay?
Yeah, because that site is, maybe there's not a lot of people going there, but it's certainly well used. And I know when I take my garbage down there, the bin's usually full. So it's not how many's going in and out, it's how much is being collected. So I'd like to know some of those facts when you bring it back.
Yeah, and Mike
Thanks.
has that information put together, and we're
Perfect.
planning to bring it back on the 20th of June.
Good, thanks, Alan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks,
Any
Mike.
other questions for Mike? Brenda or Bernice?
West on Global Road. I've had a couple of calls about the road there being kind of rough.
Yes.
Well, is it going to be done soon, or?
Yeah, so that is a section that we've also put millings on, and we were looking at, it forms potholes here and there, so we're going to have to remix it up here and relay it in packets. So yes, I've gotten the same calls, so it's on the list for sure.
Any other questions? I guess I got an email from, on construction on 253, and you got it too. Is that situation been fixed up, or?
We're making, we've clarified it with the landowners, the miscommunication that occurred there. We're still going to meet on site just to make sure that any other issues are dealt with. Communication we need to make sure that we're, it really was a husband and wife sort of thing. Truthfully, we discussed it with the husband.
Does that
one
fall in
spouse
under
out of
the
it and-
extraordinary fees?
What's that? Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike? Okay, a motion for Mike's report. Bernice? All in favor? Carried, thank you. A request for decision, road closure bylaw, 2016-18. Council's wishes. Thinking this has come back from the minister.
That's correct. It went for public hearing, and it's received approval from Alberta Transportation. Just looking for a second and third reading on this.
I'll move second reading.
Oh, you got to move second reading.
I would like a recorded vote.
Yeah, that's what you said. Oh, I thought Rex has moved second reading of the bylaw 2016-18. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. And third reading? You asked, I never heard you, sorry. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Booth voted against, the rest of the councillors voted for. Ben has moved third reading. Recorded vote. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? You're in favor? Okay, it's carried. Councillor Booth voted opposed, or other councillors voted in favor. Okay, road closure bylaw 2016-56.
Mr. Chairman, on this particular one, there's 3 councillors that are not eligible to vote. Division 2, Division 4, and Division 7.
2, 4, and 7. Okay. Council's wishes. 1, 3, 5, 6.
5, 6, right?
I'll move second reading. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? 1, 3. Okay. There should be 4 of us, I think. There should be 4 voting here. There's 3 not. So who can't vote again? I thought there was 3 can't vote. Okay, okay. And opposed? And opposed is Alice. So Alice is opposed, and the rest are in favor. Did you ask for a recorded vote, Alice?
I didn't.
Okay. Okay. Council's wishes for third reading. Okay. Dawn has moved third reading, and Alice has asked for a recorded vote. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Booth voted in opposition. The rest voted in favor. Third reading's carried. Request for decision, replacement of timber caps, File Bridge 7943. Rex?
So this I would assume is one of those examples where we're doing this on our own as a county. We don't have that bridge funding from the province anymore, so this is work that needs to be done. Would this have gone under that?
Through the chair, we definitely would have applied for this repair to be funded under the STIP program if it was still in place, yes. The reason you see a request for decision here is because we have the option of replacing just the one cap, or we have the option of replacing all the caps while we have the bridge deck lifted off, extending the lifespan of this bridge for really only $20,000 more is well worth it, and definitely our recommendation to go forward like that.
Understand? Helen?
Yeah, it's 2 additional things. This was an unbudgeted item to do these additional work, but we're recommending that to do it now while we're doing the rest of the work. The other thing is we keep track of all the bridge work we've done, and if and when the province of Alberta decides that they want to refund bridges, we will have our application ready to go.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, we need the bridge. Alice, good question. I'm seeing you half and half all the time.
No, I was going to make the recommended action that we follow. Wheatland County Council approves the replacement of all the timber caps on the BF 7942.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Request for decision, Symbiotic Envirotech.
So I'll make a motion that Wheeland County Council approve the extension of the letter of intent between Wheeland County and Symbiotic Envirotech to the satisfaction of both parties.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, speed limit, Stuck Lake Road.
Could you explain to me, through the chair, why we're posting that? so that it's on record, so that I can tell everybody that's asking me why I can only do 90 kilometers an hour when everybody out there is doing 120. And
I think
the
it's only
curve
on the
is-
curve.
And the curve makes no difference. So,
So it doesn't make a difference when you drive that curve?
have you ever been out there?
Well, I've driven it, but I don't look at my speed limit, so I'm not,
And
I'm
I'll
probably
bet you-
not knowing what
I'll
I'm
bet you
doing.
you're not doing 90.
Oh,
Anyways, just an explanation so I
Okay.
can pass it on, because myself, never mind.
For sure. So, yeah. I can go into great detail, but I'll just keep it at the level here. So basically, every time we repave a road, we look at reassessment of the speed limit signs, because definitely we improve in the road. We want to make sure that we post it at a appropriate speed limit, something that's suitable and not too high, not too low, right? So with that, we look at the design, the as-built, and basically it really all depends somewhat on the horizontal curves, but mainly on the vertical curves, how much the road goes up and down, basically sags and crusts. There's a ratio on that is called a K value, basically a ratio of the difference in slopes over the length of that curve. And there's standards put in place by Alberta Transportation, by TAC design, which is basically a transportation federal manual for design on this. And then they have this AT3R, 4R standards. And those are kind of a coverall standard that AT follows for these roads that don't meet the brand new road standards. Whenever you build a brand new road, you try and design it for the TAC manual standards, which are higher numbers, higher K values, and basically a safer road. We're working with an existing road that we can't change without going 100 meters each way into the field to back slope. So we make it fit as best we can. And with this, there was 3 sections in this road. This is Duck Lake Road South, so the road that was just paved. Nothing to do with the road north that we're paving this year. This road really only met the AT3R4 standards for in a number of spots here you see. So a lot of the road could be posted at 100, but it's really not recommended that we change the speed limit throughout the. It just causes confusion with drivers, and really we'll end up with more tickets for those drivers as they're trying to adjust their speed to.
Well, and I understand that. But my question is, the curve is on the portion of the road that we're going to be doing this summer.
That's correct.
So the one that we paved last year, there's no curve on it.
That's correct.
So there's nothing there. It's going to be all 90.
Right. So through the chair, this speed assessment was just for the 6 miles that we paved last year. We're going to do another speed assessment next year when after we've paved the road this year.
So that's going to.
And that's coming up. So that has nothing to do with it's called a horizontal curve. So basically the curve in the road as you're turning. The vertical curve is the loops and the roller coaster effect that you get going through those. And basically, the standard set here, we're at a bare minimum meeting the lower standard on these roads for a 90. So the recommendation is to not go above the 90, or else we are actually going against what the engineer recommends and basically what the transportation standards are for setting desired speed limits in the province.
So, excuse me, through the chair then, when that road is finished and the speed signs go up, is that what they're going to, because I know they limit it for the first year or whatever because of till the road hardens, settles, whatever they want to call it. Are they looking at revamping those speed signs in another year, or is this, I guess the question they're asking me, is this going to stay there forever, or are they going to revisit it? Because I've been telling them it's because it's new pavement, new construction, and we try to control the weight and the speed for the first year or so, but they're wondering, is this going to be permanent or will it change?
So through the chair, the speed limits will remain consistent with this report. We ban the road to 90 the first year just to make sure that any substructure that may be failing, it just give it time to settle and really have any problems surface without blowing the road apart to find those problems. So that has to deal with the weights and the bands that we put on that. the speed limit assessment it will be set in place for this road and remain. Nothing's going to change from one year to the next based on the condition or the age of the road.
Okay, so my next question is, I got one more. If that's what it's gonna be, and they change the curve to 80K from the 90K, can that be set up how do I, so that it's a warning sign that there's a curve ahead, or does it have to be, what I'm looking at is somebody's coming down there and if they're doing 90, they can go into that curve and around that curve and be on the south side and past Sages and hardly even know that they've gone through the curve.
Right.
If they're doing 110, they will slow down for the curve. But if we post it at 90 and 80, there's a half a mile there that somebody can sit there and pick our guys off like gophers on the pasture, because nobody slows down. If you're doing 90 on that road, they're not going to slow down. And I guess,
Right.
can we put it, I don't mind having the sign there saying slow, caution, there's a curve up ahead, but the idea of having to slow it down to 80 for that half mile doesn't make a lot of sense to the residents. So,
These are the recommendations for our engineering consulting, AMEC Foster Wheeler, and the staff. We have to provide the recommendation that they have. From an engineering standpoint, this is the recommendation. Council can choose not to follow that. If they do so, it does put council or county in a bit of a risk if someone gets in an incident, right?
I know.
And they are designed for 10 kilometers over this posted speed limit. So there is a safety factor in there, I agree. But this is the recommendation from our engineer, and that's what we have to follow as far as staff goes.
Okay, I asked.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, and I'm laughing because I went through the same thing with the road down here in Nameka, the exact same thing. And I'm regretting going with the recommendation of 90 kilometers. And the same thing applies for me. We spend the money on the road. It should be able to do 100 kilometers. The province doesn't build roads to do 90. We're building roads to the same standard as the province, so why can't we do 100 kilometers an hour? And another thing that I was not really happy about is I got calls as soon as we had changed that. Within the first few days, we had people getting pulled over. If we're going to change the speed limit, to me, they should not be getting tickets. They can be getting pulled over as an awareness program to show them that that speed limit has changed. But I don't think we should be out there, waiting for that sign to change so we can ticket residents. I think we should be more of an awareness program. But I am regretting switching that to 90. I think, we pay for the roads. It should be 100 kilometers. And I think, I won't.
On that, Mike, could we not do like we do on other where it's a recommended? So, for example, going around Nightingale, we have recommended signs posted at whatever speed. I lost it today. Can't remember what speed is. I'm having trouble remembering speeds apparently all over the county. Don't know how that's working. Anyways, I wondered if a yellow sign of recommendation for because yellows aren't enforceable, but even a recommended corner sign, and even possibly if it is a large corner, a recommended slower than that. Because we do have those corners that we recommend every county has them, where it's a recommended speed limit to slow down on a corner, just for safety purposes. But you're not actually issuing a ticket because the actual road is 90. Is that what you're looking for, Ben? Because that's what they do up all the way to Stettler. There's recommended things to turn. The corners are recommended to slow down.
Corners, yeah.
So if doing 60 makes the corner safer, then why not put a recommendation of doing 60? Because those people that are following the signs will usually do 60.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to just to add into this, I'm going to fill you in on a little bit of history. Back when we rebuilt, when the road was still ours, or we were in control of secondaries, and we were building the 564 across from Rocky Ford all the way over to the 56. and further. There's 2 locations on that road that don't meet the provincial road standard. One is 1.5 miles west of my place, and one's about 9 miles west on that Tower Hill, I think it is. Tower Hill was supposed to be dropped another 3 meters for visibility distance. The one just west of me, I think, was 1 meter that it should have been lowered because of visibility. But because of approaches coming onto it from farmsteads, that made it a dangerous situation for the landowners coming in there. The one 8 or 9 miles west of me over Tower Hill, I call it, the reason they didn't, no, that's not Tower Hill. I'm thinking of Perard's Hill, not Tower Hill. Perard's Hill, east of Standard. Sorry, not the Tower Hill. It's east of Standard, 2 miles. That hill was supposed to, by recommendation of the province, to be 3 meters lower, and the cost to lower that hill 3 more meters in the soils that we were working with in the stone was ridiculous. So council took a motion and we signed off the liability on those 2 locations. And a few years later, the government took those roads back. And they have yet to say anything is wrong with those roads, and the roads are posted at 100 the whole way through. And I'm like Rex, the 561 from the number 1 highway to Hazar has less space on that road than the Duck Lake Road's going to have when it's finished, because we build the better road than what the province does, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know why, I'm like Rex, why everything, I understand for the first year because of the new construction, everything else, and the residents do too, but as going into the future, they can't see why we can't match what the province is doing. It just doesn't make sense, so.
As an old road builder, we ran into this all the time. Part of this is the theory behind transportation's thoughts, and that's to slow people down. The more speed you put on a road, the more people will do. So you put 100, they'll do 110. You put 110, they'll do 120. And back in the day when they did curves, talking about curves, they would do a reverse curve to slow people down. It also killed people. So that's why things have changed in their mental thinking of, instead of speeding a vehicle up or allowing it to speed up, they want to try and lower the speed of that vehicle. So that's where this all comes from. I agree with Rex when there's nothing more maddening, and you see it all over. You go through the city of Calgary, as soon as you're coming up to a light, they're dropping the speed zones either 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers an hour before you go through that light. And to me, it's a way of making money. It's not about safety, because people are slamming on their brakes and rear-ending other vehicles when those speed zones are stuck in where they really don't need them. And to me, it's a money grab, because that's where they have the patrol cars or cameras. And I detest them as a driver. So I'm like, Ben, if you're going to do it 90, I'd like to see when we build those roads, they go up to 100 kilometers.
I think the councillor of the area should show by example and maintain the speed limit.
Just for point of reference, the road that goes to Rockyford, I call the Rockyford Road, off the number 1 that goes past the dump, that's a county road? Or is that a transfer site? That's a county road. That's a county road? That road's 100 kilometers, is it not?
That's because I voted on it.
Pardon?
Yeah, it is.
It is 100.
Except a little bit
A little
at
bit.
Camart's Hill, where I
Yeah,
got it,
the
it's
hill,
at 80.
just before Rockyford.
And on both sides out of town is 80, the rest is 100, all the way to the number 9. Yeah.
Yep.
Different counselor. Okay, council's wishes.
I don't have a problem with the 90. I don't have a problem with the 90K, but I would like to see a reduction rather than a speed limit on the curve, so that if you do go through there at 90 and you're not going to get nailed for it. Caution, as they do on the provincial and federal highways.
Yeah. So through the chair, just so we're clear, this speed assessment doesn't include that curve. That curve will be coming, you're talking about the S curve?
Yeah.
Just north of, I can't remember which township, but the S curve around the lake. That is included in this year's paving, so we'll have another speed assessment done for that.
Okay, so
there'll be recommendations at that time.
So this
These are the vertical curves?
only. This has nothing. This has nothing to do with the.
No. This is the hills.
Oh.
So, and that's where I say they, through the chair, they have specific values and limits to roller coaster effect, basically, trying to avoid the roller coaster effect of those curves. Going through the sags and crests of the hills. And so that's why the limits are
Okay.
recommendation did include 3 options.
Mike.
Sorry about that. So the 3 options are posting the road at 100 kilometers, short of that north section down to 80 kilometers per hour, because that's still a concern. Posting the entire road at 90, except for the 80 at the north section, and then posting the entire road at 80, which doesn't make any sense after the rebuild here.
Okay, I'll put a motion on the floor to go to the 100 kilometer, noting the fact, as you've explained it very well, thank you, but putting a speed limit there to create that problem, to stop that problem, isn't going to do any good if nobody follows it. So they're going to do the 100 whether it's 90 or not, so we may as well post it at 100, and maybe we'll have them abide by the 100. So I'm going to put it on.
100?
I'm going to put it on at 100.
Okay.
No, this is for the.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, for clarification to Ben, that one of the options here is posting the entire roadway at 100 kilometers, returning to 80 kilometers past the intersection at Township Road 250. Is that what you're recommending?
Correct.
Any questions? Ellen?
I'm just going to reiterate, professional engineer has come up with these recommendations. It's designed for the exact same thing you discussed about, the cost. If we were to go to have it designed for 110 kilometers hours, posted at 100, the cost would have been considerably higher. So that's not the recommendations of the staff or the engineer that did the road. Just reiterating that, so.
Okay. Okay, any questions? Yeah. Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously.
There you go. Fair enough. We're moving on, exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
I know it's 5 after, but there's only one request for decision here for when Mike's here, so we'll do that now. Request for decision, stop signs and speed signs on the Glenmore Trail.
Yeah, I read that one as well, Mr. Chairman. I'll go ahead and make that a motion if nobody objects.
Okay, Rex has moved. The recommended action. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Mike.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, we'll break for lunch.